right, so now what I want you to do, we're gonna go ahead and determine the sides. And I did the waistband and I did the hips for you, but I wanna show you your waist on the pattern, all right? So I'm just gonna kind of show you one side on the waistband and one pattern piece for the hips as well, just so you get an idea of how to do this, all right? So I'm gonna move this off to the side. So let's grab pattern piece number 11, which is your front. We're gonna work on the front first. And what I'm gonna do now, the pattern size that I have is pattern piece, the pattern size of 18 and 20. So I'm just gonna do it for that pattern piece because this may be the size that I'm going to be cutting, which is the size 18, all right? But let's go ahead and start with the waist measurement. So go ahead and grab your ruler. And what you wanna do is make a straight line all the way across at that waistline. So this is your waistline right here. You want to make a line all the way across. So go ahead and make your line all the way across. And you're gonna also do that on the back pattern piece as well. Now, what we're gonna do is grab our measuring tape, all right? And what we're gonna do is you're gonna go from the 18 line all the way to the other line right here and measure that and see what you get. Now I get 12 and a half. So what I'm gonna do is write down size 18, 12.5, which is 12 and a half. All right. Now, because we have two front pattern pieces, I'm going to multiply that 12.5 by 2. This is where your calculator comes into play. Now grab your calculator, and what you're going to do is take 12.5 and multiply it by 2. And it gives you 25. So write 25. All right. Now, we have seam allowance, and the seam allowance is going to be taken out right here on this pocket. This is like your pocket seam allowance, and at the front. Now, like I mentioned in my previous videos, it's 5/8 here, 5/8 here. 5/8 plus 5/8 is 1.25. So you have 1.25 seam allowance for the left pant front and 1.25 for the right front pant leg, all right? Which 1.25 plus 1.25 is 2.5. So you're gonna remove the seam allowance of 2.5, all right? So we're gonna take 25 minus 2.5, and that gives you 22.5, all right? Now, that is not all you do, because now what we're gonna do is, because we have pleats at the waist area, we need to remove the pleats to get a finished garment measurement when all of it is sewn together, all right? So now what we're gonna do is grab our measuring tape again. We're gonna measure how wide the pleats are. So the pleats are 2 1/8, which is weird. So let me measure from right here. 2 1/4. So right here, it's 2 1/4. So what I'm gonna do is measure a second time, and it is 2 1/4. So I'm gonna write 2 1/4, which is 2.25, and this is 2.25 as well. All right. Now, with the pleats being 2.25 here, so I'm gonna take my calculator and write put in 2.25 for this pleat. I also have 2.25 right here. Now that becomes 4.5. Now I only showed for one pant leg. You have to do the same thing to the other pant leg. So altogether you have a total of 4 pleats, 2 on the left side, 2 on the right side. So you're going to remove not 4.25, you need to remove 9, because you have 2.25, 2.25, and then the other side 2.25, 2.25. All right. So we're going to also remove 9 inches, and I'm going to write pleats. All right. After you take out that 9 inches, you're going to take 22.5 minus 9. I'm hoping you're able to see that. and you get 13.5. So right here, you want to write 13.5. And that's basically what you will get as your finished garment measurement once this is completely put together, all right? Now you're gonna do the same thing for a size 20, so I'm not gonna completely walk you through how to do that, but I'm just gonna go ahead and write it down and I'll tell you. So I'm gonna measure across. I'm just gonna do it kind of fast for you. And that gives me 13. So I'm going to put 13 multiply 2 because I have 2 pattern pieces, and it gives me 26. After that, I'm going to take out the seam allowance, which is 2.5. And 26 minus 2.5 is 23.5. Now, the only thing I need to do is take out the pleats, which is 9 inches, and it gives me 14.5. All right. So that's where we are right now. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and move our front off to the side, and we're gonna work on our back pattern piece. But before we do so, one thing I wanna mention is you're going to do the same thing at your hips. So I'm just gonna give you an idea of how to do the hips, same way. Your size 18, you're gonna take size 18 all the way across, like this, and it gives you 14.75. You're going to multiply that by 2 and get 29.5, and then subtract out the seam allowance for the front and the back, which is 2.5. And that gives you 27. You're going to do the same thing for the size 20. All right. Now move your front pattern piece out the way. Grab your back pattern piece, which is pattern piece number 16. And what we're going to do, same thing, we're going to measure across at the waist. I'm sorry, we're going to make a line across at the waist. Now, one thing I will mention about this line is it seemed like it's a kind of slants a little bit. And the reason why is because that's how it has it on the pattern. Not sure why, but to each his own. So what we're going to do, the same thing as we did for the front. I'm going to write size 18 and size 20 on the pattern. And then what we're going to do is measure across at the 18 line. So we're going to measure from the center back seam at the crotch curve to the 18 line. And that gives me roughly about 11 and 1/8. So I'm going to measure a second time to make sure that that's what I got. So the second time I got 11. So I'm just going to put 11. I'm going to multiply that by 2, which gives me 22, and take out the seam allowance of 2.5. And I'm going to write SA for seam allowance. And then I'm going to go to my handy dandy calculator and take 22 minus 2.5 and get 19.5. Now, because it has a dart, I need to figure out the dart. So what I'm going to do is take the dart at the tip. And the dart is 1.5. So I'm just going to take out 1.5 for the left side, 1.5 for the right side is 3. 1.5 plus 1.5 is 3 inches. So we're going to take out 3 inches, and I'm going to write darts. So 19.5 minus 3 is 16.5. All right. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the size 20. Once again, you're going to measure from the center back all the way across, and it gives me 11.625. So I'm going to write 11.625, multiply that by 2. And that gives me 23.25. I'm going to take out the seam allowance of 2.5. And that gives me 20.75. And then remove 3 inches for the dart, which gives me 17.75. Now the next thing that I need to do is definitely grab pattern piece number 1. And I need to check and see which one is as close to my waist measurement as possible. Now my waist measurement is a 33.5 if I'm wearing it at my natural waist. That's where that bend happens. When you kind of like lean over to the side, it's a bend. That is considered your natural waist. But because I like wearing all of my pants pretty much right at my belly button, I'm going to go up a little bit, and I'm going to go up to a 35 inch or 35 and a half. 35 is perfect, but 35 and a half gives me a little bit more room. So what I'm going to do is take the size 18 that I came up with 13.5, and I'm going to add that to the 16.5. Well, that tells me that that's a waist of a 30. That's a little too small than what I'm looking at. So now I'm going to go to the size 20, which gives me 14.5 for the front. And then the back gives me 17.75. Well, that's a 32 and a half. So really, technically, this pattern is not going to work for me, but it's okay. What's going to happen is I'm going to size up this pattern for what I need it for. All right. So one thing I'm going to do is cut the size 20 for this pattern and then size it up. So what I'll need to be doing is sizing up at the waist and not necessarily the hips, simply because the hips is looking spot on. So what you need to do is grab some sheet of paper, put it down, and I have showed this before, but I'm going to kind of walk you through it one good time. So now remember, for a size 20, we ended up getting 32.25. So I'm going to move this out of the way. Grab a small sheet of paper. Now I'm just going to grab a scratch piece of paper. I'm going to actually make one. So let me make scratch piece of paper just to kind of show you how you go about sizing up your pattern. So let me cut a little small piece from here. All right, so let's go ahead and I'm just going to show you how to size up this pattern because I know I'm going to have to size up mine. But let's just say that we are currently working at the waist, and we notice that the waist is just not right. So what you're going to do is get you some paper. Now, I will not be taping it down right now because I want to check on the bigger size pattern and see if it'll work better without having to do a lot of adjustments, okay? So first things first, we want to put paper underneath. Now, this side right here kind of serves as your side seam because you have pockets, you have pleats, and you have a center front. So for this pattern, it says a size 20 finished garment measurement at the waist is a 32.25. All right. And I'll zoom it in so you can see it. Now, because I want my waist measurement to measure 35 and a half or 35.5, I need to subtract 35.5 from 32.25, what we got when we measured across. So that's 35.5 minus 32.25, which gives me 3.25. Now, essentially, you have four sides. You have, the sides of the front and the back on one side, right? So 5/8 plus 5/8 plus 5/8 plus 5/8, it ends up being 2.5. Now, because you have four sides, you need to divide by 4. So I'm going to take 3.25, divide that by 4, and I get 0.812. All right, well, that's close to 1, but it will be a little off, but that's okay. It's not too far off, but we don't want to make it too small, but we also do not want to make it too big. All right, so now what I'm going to do is move my calculator, and what I'm going to do is take this over to where it's clean paper. Put some tape down. Now, like I mentioned, I'm not going to tape it down because I'm just kind of like doing this as an example. I'm just going to put some pattern weights there. And what I'm going to do is from this line right here, I need to go out 0.81. So 0.81 is like 13 out of 16. So I'm going to take my see-through ruler like this. I'm going to put it right at that, and I'm going to go 13 and 13/16. So I'm going to go 1 over from the 12 line, and I'm just going to make a line all the way out right there. Now, after I do that, I'm going to definitely make sure that I'm going to merge back into my seam allowance. So it's right there. This is where you want to take your hip curve ruler to pretty much kind of, you don't want to peak. So you kind of want to go out just a little bit right here and then grade from the top all the way down with your hip curve ruler. Okay. And then that becomes your new, and then you want to kind of grade out and then back in towards the hip line. All right. So that's what you're going to do. I'm going to make my line a little bit darker so you're able to see it. All right, so now that I went ahead and darkened that line, you can see what it will look like, and you just cut this new pattern and sew 5/8 inch seam allowance. All right, so that's how you determine your sizing. Now I'm going to give you the sizing for the hips. So I only did 2 sizes, an 18 and a 20. So finished garment measurement for the front pattern piece for the hips is 27, and then finished garment measurement for size 20 just for the front pattern piece is 28. Now in terms of the back pattern piece at the hips, a size 18 is a 24 and a size 20 is 24.75. Now how you find out your hips is you take the front that you measured, which is 27, add it to the back, which is 24, and that gives you a circumference of 51 inches. You would do the same thing to the size 20, all right? Well, that's it for how to size up the pattern and what size you need to cut. So let's go ahead and get into the sewing finally. All right, so there you have for Butterick 6946 and Butterick 6947. I hope you enjoy. And if you make this pattern, do not forget to tag me so I can share your creation with everyone on Instagram, YouTube alike, right? At Rochelle.Handmade.Designs. And also, don't forget to hit that. And since you made it this far, do not forget to hit that like button, subscribe button. Also, smash that notification bell so you are notified every time your girl uploads a new video. So I'll catch you in the next video. And as always, keep sewing.